out the winner of this fight, but you definitely shocked the world.
You know, I've said this before. I've had a lot of experiences in the boxing ring. Thank everybody. Thank you. Did y'all enjoy that? Did y'all enjoy that?
This may go down as one of the best welterweight fights in history. One of the
If you like to talk about combat sports and you want to join the discussion, click the subscribe button below and the bell notification icon next to it and join Knucklehead Nation. Ladies and gentlemen of Knucklehead Nation, that was absolute insanity. This is, just so everybody knows, the Errol Spence versus Shawn Porter Reaction Discussion live. That was absolutely insane. I don't know if you guys were able to catch that fight, but that fight was an absolute 12-round dogfight and didn't exactly go to plan. Wasn't exactly the fight that I foresaw, and I must say that I was incredibly surprised by Shawn Porter's performance in this fight. I expected a much more dominant performance out of Errol Spence in this fight, but Shawn Porter showed that his style is just too much. It's just too much, too aggressive for anybody to look good against. And here are some takeaways I had from the fight. And I wanted to share them with you guys, see what you guys thought about the fight. Again, just so we're clear here, Errol Spence did get the win in a split decision over Shawn Porter. I thought the cards were a little bit wide, even though it was a split decision. I thought it was a really close fight. I think there was a difference maker. I believe it was in the 11th round when Errol Spence knocked Shawn Porter down with a short hook. Looked like it may have been a hybrid hook uppercut as Shawn was sort of coming up to throw another one of his punches. And he was fighting very much like a Joe Frazier, changing levels and coming up and throwing punches. And I thought that was fantastic what he was doing in there. But a couple takeaways I have from this fight. I'm going to start with the first one. Shawn Porter was able to hurt Errol Spence in this fight. Not severely. Not severely. Didn't knock him down or anything. But he definitely buzzed him with a punch to the top of the head. I believe it was in the 4th round. And he showed that Errol Spence is susceptible to these big overhand punches that he was throwing. And that's something that Spence is going to have to tighten up before he gets in there with the likes of Terrence Crawford. Now, that's not going to be his next opponent according to the post-fight interviews. And we'll get into that in a second because that's going to absolutely piss off the boxing fan horde even further than the boxing fan horde is already pissed off, okay? The fact that Errol Spence is not going to be fighting Terrence Crawford next is not going to go over well. It's just not going to go over well with the boxing public. But let's look at some of the things that happened in this fight and some of the takeaways I've got. So Errol Spence on multiple occasions got caught with these overhand, I believe they were lefts from Shawn Porter. He's going to have to tighten up on that. Another big takeaway I had in this fight was this was the perfect fight for Los Angeles. This was a totally Mexican-style warrior fight where two guys just said, Screw it, man. We're just going to go in there and tear each other apart. And that's exactly what happened. And I was pleasantly surprised to watch that. Pleasantly surprised. Another takeaway, like I said, Shawn Porter, who doesn't have big punching power, at least that's not what he's known for, hurting Errol Spence in the 4th round. I saw him hurt. I saw him buzzed. But it's boxing. I guess it can happen to anybody. But Errol Spence really big for the division. And if he gets caught like that by a guy who knows what he's doing a bit more on the technical side, and Terrence Crawford, he's in big trouble. But I must say, that fight was a dog fight. Another takeaway I had was Errol Spence does have a dog in him, and you are going to have to shoot this guy to hurt this guy. I mean, he got buzzed by a punch on the top of the head, but he got hit with so many shots in this fight. He got hit with so many shots in this fight by Shawn Porter. And one of the big takeaways for me was the reason he got hit by all these big shots. And I think the reason is his feet are not fast enough and his balance was not good enough for him to get set when Shawn Porter was crashing into him, right? Shawn Porter would crash into him, it would throw him off balance, and they'd exchange off balance. And on one occasion, he even stepped on Porter's foot and fell back and slipped. His feet were not as fast as Shawn Porter's, and that may prove to be another problem for Errol Spence if he does decide to fight Terrence Crawford, which it doesn't look like it's going to happen after the post-fight interview. Now, we'll get to that in a second. But I think as far as takeaways, the biggest takeaways are Shawn Porter hurt Errol Spence, and he's not a big puncher. Shawn Porter showed that Errol Spence's balance when you're fighting him on the inside and being physical with him is maybe not as great as we thought, and could leave him susceptible to guys who know how to fight on the inside. Shawn Porter landed a lot more punches than he should have landed against Errol Spence. That being said, you can't take away the amazing work Errol Spence did. He went to the body over and over again against a guy who he just couldn't hurt until he caught him with a punch he didn't see in the 11th round. Errol Spence was not able to hurt Shawn Porter in this fight until he caught him in the 11th round, while Shawn Porter was not expecting the punch. Highly entertaining fight. Abel Sanchez is going to have to walk back what he said about African American fighters after that fight. That was one of the most entertaining fights I've seen in a minute. These guys, what it made me think of was those old fights that you would see of, Rocky Marciano and these guys, those old black and white fights from back in the 50s and stuff, 40s, whatever it was, where they're just leaning on each other and just slugging it out. These guys were leaning on each other the whole time, pushing each other, slugging it out. And it was just the most incredible display of heart and physicality I've seen in a boxing match in a very long time. I mean, the people at the Staples Center, I think at one point everybody was on their feet. People were chanting. That's what boxing is about. The odds makers had it wrong. I got the prediction right in that I thought Errol Spence would win a decision or by late stoppage, and that almost happened, that late stoppage. But I was wrong, because even though I did say I thought Porter could make it a fight with his physicality and it could, be a good fight, I was leaning more along the lines of Errol Spence having a dominant win. Maybe the fight being close in the beginning, but him pulling away at the end. And he sort of pulled away at the end. But man, Porter stayed in there. And to be honest with you guys, it was a split decision. And I could honestly, having not, now I didn't score the fight. I was just watching it and being completely entertained. But that fight, I mean, you could make an argument that was a draw. I mean, you could make an argument that was a draw, or that maybe Spence won by a little bit. Or even if you liked Porter's work, that he won by a little bit. I mean, that looked like a very tough fight to score, and I think the scorecard showed that. The judges had it 116-112, one for Porter and one for Spence, and then 116-111 for Spence. And wow, what a great fight. What a close fight, what a hard fight to score. I actually thought Porter landed a lot of clean blows. I actually thought Porter landed most of the clean blows up until the end of the fight. Now, that's not to say Errol Spence wasn't. I thought Errol Spence was doing the cleaner work overall, but I thought Porter was landing the more impactful blows a lot of the time in the fight until the end of the fight came along, and then Errol Spence landed that big hook that dropped Shawn Porter and got him the only knockdown in the fight, and probably sealed the victory. Maybe not according to those judges' scorecards, but I mean, wow, I'm blown away. I'm blown away by how great that fight was, you guys, and that's a fight that I hope everybody had the chance to catch. Again, if you're just joining us, Errol Spence gets the split decision win over a very tough Shawn Porter. And fantastic performance by both guys. I think both guys' stocks actually rise in this fight, even though it's boxing. And when you lose in boxing, your career is in jeopardy. I think both guys' stocks rise. And now to talk about the most mafioso move of the evening, which is basically, I mean, it's got to be Al Heyman. Al Heyman having Danny Garcia walk into the ring and announcing through the I believe it was the lady, the broadcaster Abdo, that he's going to be fighting Danny Garcia next. Oh, that's some mafia shit, man. Come on, man. You're going to have him fight Danny Garcia. Garcia lost to Porter. Garcia lost to Thurman. Terrence Crawford is out there. Manny Pacquiao is out there. Forget Manny Pacquiao, though. That's a money fight, you know. But Terrence Crawford is out there. That's the fight that needs to happen. Danny Garcia was announced and walked into the ring, and you can hear the crowd's reaction. They were all like, boo. They were all holding their nose. The mafioso stench had filled up and accumulated into the Staples Center to the point where the roof was being lifted off. Everybody was booing that Danny Garcia was going in there next against Errol Spence. And I don't know. I don't see how Danny Garcia beats Errol Spence unless he somehow lands like a monster left hand and puts him to sleep. I mean, he's basically got a puncher's chance. I do not see. I mean, you never know. Maybe you guys disagree, but I don't see how a guy like Danny Garcia can beat Errol Spence Jr. So again, incredible fight. Rough, rugged, entertaining fight. Errol Spence was hurt. Shawn Porter was hurt. Shawn Porter was knocked down. You know, incredibly entertaining fight. And then the ultimate mafia move in the end. your boy, Al Heyman, basically setting up the rematch, or rather the match, with Danny Garcia instead of the fight that everybody in boxing wants to see, Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. We're going to take this thing to the chat now at this point and see what's going on in the chat room. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Before we head on over to the chat, I want to tell you guys, please subscribe to the links below. Be sure to get your Fighters Rep merchandise in the links in the description, as well as donate to the Super Chat. Finally, I've got Everlast hand wraps in the Amazon associate link below. Man, if you guys click the link below and get those hand wraps, we get a cut. You don't have to do anything. We just get a cut, a commission from Amazon. And even if you don't buy the hand wraps, even if you guys don't buy the hand wraps, as long as you click that link and buy something else off Amazon, they'll still send us a commission to Fighters Rep. And obviously, I use all that money to reinvest right back into Fighters Rep promotions. We're having Fighters Rep 9 December 21st. It's going to be our first Pro-Am. It's going to be absolutely sick. We've got the best fight camps in the world down here in SoCal. Joining us for Fighters Rep 9, our first Pro-Am, pure striking, no holding. And you guys will definitely enjoy it. Also, you can get your tickets for Fighters Rep 9 in the links below. So let's head on over to the chat and see what's going on there. And we've got a full chat room today. Marco Martinez started it off by saying, what a war. Shawn Porter brought pure fire. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Swaggy Taggy 420 saying, wow. Throwback to the 50s. Man, those are my sentiments exactly. That looked like one of those black and white fights where the guys were just leaning all over each other and beating the shit out of each other. It was crazy. And yeah, Spence sure as hell did prove that he's got a solid chin. Marco Martinez is saying, let's be honest, Spence chose to make it a dogfight. Actually, I don't think Spence chose to make it a dogfight. I'm going to have to disagree with you there, Marco. I think that's the only way Porter knows how to fight. And that was Errol Spence's best way to try to get him off. I don't think he was going to have success just staying on the outside and trying to box Porter, because Porter was running in on him. Swaggy Taggy saying, I think it's probably my fight of the year so far. Man, I don't blame you. That was a great fight. Marco Martinez replying that he not sure if he disagrees, but the Fury Wallen fight was full of drama as well. That's true. That was a good fight, very evenly matched. Yeah. No, I agree with both of you guys, man. Those were great fights. Arik is saying, wow, great event. I'm so jealous. My son was at Staples Center watching all these great fights. Arik, you should have gone out there and watched it. But hopefully next time you could join us at Fighters Rep and watch some incredible fights on December 21st. Swaggy Taggy is saying, particularly as I'm a big Fury fan, the chins on both men. Hell yeah. Marco Martinez, how tough is Shawn Porter? He was out on his feet for a microsecond and then he came right at his opponent. Dude, so much heart, man. So much heart from Shawn Porter. Swaggy Taggy says, think most other welters would have been out cold from the 11th round KO. Not to mention some of the other hits that were landing. I agree, man. These guys were landing bombs on each other all night. You know, what the heck was going on here? I mean, a part of me was thinking, are these guys on some kind of PED or something? I mean, these guys are tearing each other's heads apart. You know, how are these guys standing up? And then Swaggy Taggy saying, yeah, I think everyone would rather see a rematch. You know, I do think a rematch would be better than having Errol Spence go in there and fight Danny Garcia, but PBC Mafia, brother. He's doing what? That's Al Heyman doing his thing. Hey, I don't knock him. He's basically boxing Terrence Crawford out. I think that's what's happening here. Terrence Crawford is being boxed out for the time being, at least. Marco Martinez Pacquiao is a super intriguing opponent for Spence. That'll probably never happen. You know, I agree with that one, Marco. I agree, man. With Pacquiao's footwork and quickness of his hands and stuff, I think that would be a really good fight, man. I mean, but if he got caught with one of those big punches by Spence, he could also go to sleep. So that'd be a dangerous fight for Manny Pacquiao. Swaggy Taggy saying Crawford versus Spence ain't happening until it's for all the belts are unified. I'd expect 2021 if Spence can stay at the weight. Yeah, agreed. Would be interesting to see how Spence deals with the speed of Pac-Man. Yeah, I think that speed would give Spence some problems. Marco Martinez saying Danny Garcia is legit, George. I agree it's bad politics to make the fight, but contracts with television will always make it extremely difficult. Deontay Wilder has purposely not signed a long-term TV deal so he can keep his options open. I mean, yeah, you know, Danny Garcia is legit. I'm not saying he's not legit, but he lost to Shawn Porter. He lost to Keith Thurman. I think he's already basically in the twilight of his career. And to put him in there against an Errol Spence, I don't know, maybe Garcia saw something in this fight that he can capitalize on. You never know. But yeah, Danny Garcia is very stiff. He's not really a big inside fighter. I think that's what made Shawn Porter effective against Spence. I just don't see Danny Garcia outboxing Errol Spence, but you never know. And I didn't think this fight was going to be as good as it was. And look, I was proven wrong. So I'm down to watch all of this, man. I'm down to watch all this. But obviously, as a boxing fan, my preferred fight is Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. Swaggy Taggy saying the undercard was very good also. Yeah, I really enjoyed the undercard. I liked watching David Benavidez basically get his belt back after, I think, testing positive for, you know, the substance that's like the main substance in cocaine. So the homie was partying. But, yeah, the homie was partying, but he's back and he's got his belt back. So let's see what he does. He basically beat the shit out of Anthony Durrell. And I thought the other fun fight on the undercard was that John Molina Riverside Rocky fight. Josecito Lopez, that was pretty good. That Akhmadov fight was good. There was a lot of good stuff on there. I like watching boxing undercards of substance, you know. I feel like, you know, they're going to UFC route now where they're actually putting decent fights on a lot of these undercards. So it was a good undercard. Marco Martinez, one bit of hate. I was not a fan of the production of the show. Lennox Lewis and the other commentator just never seemed to be on the same page. I miss Jim Lampley. You know what, Marco? I agree 100%, man. I think Lennox Lewis, you know, as much of a legend as he is of the sport, he's just not a good talker, man. I don't believe he was built for this kind of thing. You know, he's kind of just like babbling, almost like a kid while the fight's happening. And yeah, I'm not really a big fan of it. The other commentator as well, you know, yeah, they don't have the best commentators on these PBC-related shows. And yeah, Jim Lampley and guys like that are definitely better. Talk about it. Thank you so much for joining the channel. Talk about it, joining the chat. Talk about it saying Bud beats Errol. Shawn landed big punches from the southpaw stance. That surprised me. Bud landed what Shawn landed tonight. He's getting KO'd by Bud, no doubt. You know what? You might be right, man. You might be right. And that's what I was saying earlier in the chat. I was saying, man, if Shawn Porter's landing these punches, man, then Terrence Crawford is going to land these punches. Now, Terrence Crawford will have to earn his opportunities in a different way because Terrence Crawford doesn't fight the way Shawn Porter does. Shawn Porter landed those punches and earned the opportunity to land those punches by being so physical, by pushing and basically rushing himself in towards Errol Spence and kind of knocking him off balance and keeping him guessing. So he was able to create those opportunities. Terrence Crawford is going to create it in a different way, but I do think it showed susceptibility to those, to those big left-hand punches. And he's going to have to shore that up if he goes up against a guy like Terrence Crawford. And, also, Danny Garcia's got a big left hand, but like I said, I don't see Danny Garcia being able to beat Errol Spence, especially considering, he lost. I know styles make fights, but he lost to Porter. He lost to Thurman. He's almost not even in the top 5 anymore. He's kind of lost a few steps. So I just don't see why Danny Garcia, other than the fact that it's, Al Heyman. But hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. And there's a lot to hate about the game for sure. Swaggy Taggy saying cha-cha. Not sure what that is. Marco Martinez, was Darrell's brother in the Super 6? What happened to him? He was in the Super 6. And I remember that was a lot of fun. And he had a close fight with Carl Froch where he lost. And then he got hit after his fight, after the bell with Arthur Abraham. And it looked like he had like a seizure or something. And then some people were saying he faked it. So, I don't know, man. I think his career kind of took a dive after that. That was a very weird situation. But I don't know. I don't know what happened to the other Darrell brother. I think it was Anthony Darrell or Andre Darrell. I don't remember. One's Anthony, one's Andre. The one that fought tonight, though, man, he had a nasty cut on his eyebrow. I think tonight was Anthony Darrell. He had a nasty, nasty cut on his eyebrow. And I'm surprised, actually, that they didn't stop the fight sooner. But, Benavidez just kept coming forward and just tore him up, man. That was kind of a brutal fight. And a brutal result at the end. They had to basically stop the fight. He was getting crushed. And Benavidez is a champion once more. Swaggy Taggy, Bud needs to keep active. Has he announced his next fight? I don't know who he's fighting next. My thing with Bud Crawford is I don't feel like he's fought anybody that's like really good. Yeah, I just don't think he's fought anybody that's really good. Spence has a lot better experience at this point, and so do the other big welterweights. So I think they're going to keep using that against him in order not to get in the ring with him, because he just hasn't fought anybody that's really good. I guess the best guy you could say he fought was Gamboa, and I think by the time he fought Gamboa was already kind of on a downward trajectory, But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with him. I'm not sure who he's fighting next. But yeah, he needs to stay active because he's the man, I really think Bud Crawford and Errol Spence are the best welterweights. That's my opinion. Pacquiao maybe after them. And then maybe Keith Thurman. And or rather, maybe Shawn Porter, Keith Thurman, and then Danny Garcia. Yeah. Marco Martinez saying in the 5th round, they went to Keith Thurman and asked him about his score after Thurman said he had given every round to Porter Lewis. Well, there's 2 guys in there. Great observation. Yeah. So what Marco Martinez is saying is that Thurman, and I was kind of, I was intrigued by that. They asked Thurman what he thought the score was. He said he had every round at the end of that 5th round. I think he said he had every round. He was either at the end of the 4th or the 5th. He had every round, he said, for Shawn Porter. And if that's the case, then you can definitely make the argument that Shawn Porter won the fight. And so Marco's point was, Lewis's comment to that was, well, there's two guys in there. I mean, what does that even what does that even mean, man? Like, I don't know. I feel like, they're kind of making Lennox Lewis look bad by having him up there. He doesn't need to be there. Swaggy Taggy saying not at welter anyway. All the top welters are at PBC. It's all part of the Heyman master plan. Yep, Heyman's keeping it gangster, man. But hey, he's doing a good job, and he's done right by his fighters. But unfortunately, it's the boxing public that suffers, and the sport when the best guys aren't fighting the best guys. So, knuckleheads, that's kind of all I have for you at this time. Click the subscribe button below. Obviously, we do this every week. So join us every week, Thursdays at 9 p.m. We've got interviews coming out all the time. So always check into the channel or subscribe and hit the bell notification icon next to it, so you can be notified when we put up an interview or a fight or a discussion. We do our previews every Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific. Our preview predictions, rather. So join us for that. And don't forget, Fighters Rep 9, the most exciting sport in combat, all stand and bang action. There's no holding, there's no grappling. It's going down December 21st at Seal Beach, California. The first Pro-Am event, the only Pro-Am kickboxing event in California. Be sure to join us. And definitely, again, feel free to purchase any items you like, Fighters Rep merchandise, in the links in the description below. All those proceeds, or the majority, will go right back in to Fighters Rep Promotions and building what I believe is going to be the best striking promotion in the world. Also, there's links to our Amazon Associates account, to some Everlast hand wraps. Click the link, check out those hand wraps. If you don't want those, anything else you buy from Amazon, after clicking that link, if you buy it within a day, I think, we'll get a commission, and we'd greatly appreciate that. Again, the proceeds go into developing the future of striking. So that's all I got for you guys, knuckleheads. You all have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you very soon. We've actually got an interview coming up that I'm going to be posting tomorrow, so you're definitely going to want to check that out. Have a good night. Click the link below for your official Fighters Rep merchandise and join Knucklehead Nation.